Twitch has been in the headlines a lot recently, and I don't just mean article titles, but videos here on YouTube as well. However, one thing that's become an interest to me as both a once frequent user of the site and previous Twitch partner is the coverage of it, as it always seems to be playing down or defending very real issues and failings of Twitch, further covering behind the scenes information and stories, the result of which is even coverage when it comes to these videos criticizing the company are very narrow, focusing solely on the same one or two areas. So today we're going to be lifting the curtains on some of these dealings, but before we go in deep, we have to start at the surface, in territory that probably seems familiar. This Twitch thought situation goes by many names and has many metas, but I think it's important we make it very clear what the real problem is, as when criticizing it, you'll often find that people are dismissed as incels, misogynist, or various other names. But in reality, the core of the issue isn't necessarily the girls. It's the failings of Twitch to keep a consistent rule set, and the people that suffer because of this. Even if we keep the female bodies as the topic, you will see cases like Kuroe receiving a ban for cosplaying Chun-Li. In this stream, the recording wasn't even set provocatively. She was simply drawing in cosplay. Was the ban because it actually had something to do with video games? In contrast, on the front page daily, you can see channels like Amaranth, whose streams do completely focus on provocation, from the activities themselves to the camera angles, some going as far to have a microphone shoved right up against their crotch at times for ASMR. Hell, while someone like Amaranth is always the main girl to go to, because of her constantly being featured, even if you have a fresh account, she isn't nearly the worst. Miss Behaven, an ironic name in this case, is a Twitch partner who has outright spread her hole live on stream. Not just a slip or anything minuscule, this action went on for 10 minutes straight, as if it were a porn site. She is still partnered with Twitch to this day.
How the fuck have I not been banned? It's almost like I'm just kidding, Twitch, but it's almost like a challenge. It's almost like a challenge. It's almost like a challenge.
Meanwhile, keeping with the theme of contrast, do you want to know why I, a Twitch partner, was permanently banned? It was because of a drawing of an anime character in a swimsuit being featured on my stream page, as well as similar content being on my Twitter. So it goes without saying that this conversation isn't simply cover up women, but how insanely inconsistent these rules are. I and many others were banned under the guise of sexual content, but these girls, I repeat, who literally spread their holes and various other sexual acts for the camera, go without true punishment from the website. However, let's put a pin in that for now, as before we go further, I'd like to juxtapose some other recent bans and the insane reasoning behind them. Nickage is one such example. He was indefinitely banned because there was hateful speech in his chat. We, as in everyone who isn't Twitch, don't know what that message was, as Twitch never elaborated, despite his constant attempts to contact them or reach out with social media campaigns. Nick, thankfully, did eventually get his channel back many months later, but he stands as a perfect example of how rulings are handled. A lot of the time, Twitch will never truly explain why you're banned. They claimed last year that they will start actually telling streamers said reasons going forward, but we can plainly see those reasons are as vague as possible because it's a benefit to keep you in the dark. It's a lot harder to make your case, see hypocrisy, or really do anything when you're not even told why you're punished. For many, it's a dice roll if Twitch will so much as respond to them, and Nick has a big following. Most people don't have the ability to make a constant stir for literally months when Twitch screws them over. But more to the point of this specific case, Nick didn't do anything. He didn't encourage anything. Someone simply said something in his chat, supposedly, and no matter the context, Nick himself is the one at fault, being put in a situation where his livelihood was unknown. That right there is important. Some defenders will point out that a portion of these bans do get undone, as if that negates the criticism. But that's why I've chosen Nick's case, because it's one of the better outcomes I've seen, yet it's still awful. Truly, the unprofessionalism of Twitch cannot be understated, even as far as big websites go. Stuff like YouTube or Twitter, not to say they're agreeable, but they will at the very least actually give you reports and the exact reason as to why you're banned or receiving a strike, as well as respond somewhat timely, not months later or never at all. We still don't know what this hateful conduct was in Nick's case. Meanwhile, you can find people who do openly spread hate speech plastered on the front page, such as Hassan Piker, who in the process of making a name for himself constantly ends up in controversies, such as yelling by Twitch's own definition, slurs on stream.
Every single one of you fucking pasty little cracker bitches in my chat, okay?
To many other cases where he participates in hateful conduct or incites harassment.
What the is wrong with this dude? Didn't he go to war and like literally lose his eye because some mujahideen, a brave soldier, his eye hole with their Isn't that how he lost his eye? Because he got his eye hole? America deserved 9/11, dude. Fuck it, I'm saying it.
He's not the only partner channel who has a constant history of participating in this behavior. Far from it. Although, with so many options to look at, I want to go to the other end of the spectrum, because it's easy to say Twitch has a political bias, and I would not argue against that, as a majority of the streamers I can pull from fit right next to Hassan. However, I also think it's inarguable that we do still see special treatment all across the board, particularly if a name is profitable. So in all fairness, I thought I should make an attempt, even if, admittedly, you have to squint to find these cases. But one such example is
Low tier God.
LTG was recently given his channel back despite, well, I can't say one incident. I very much enjoy Low Tier God and his content, but that's just the thing. Even people who have never watched him are more than aware of the trash talking associated with said content.
Shut your ass up, you ass nigga. Shut your ass up.
Especially when it comes to the busybodies on Twitter and social media, a lot of it can be seen as homophobia, transphobic, targeted hate, hateful conduct, you name it. Not to mention, what makes this even more questionable is the TOS ruling we briefly talked about, where it stated off-platform behavior will result in a ban. We've seen so many streamers lose their channel over this ruling, so it's no excuse to say someone wasn't on Twitch. Their slate should be clean. We're going by the written standards that are by and large upheld, if not overly so, to the majority of people. And to clarify my stance, as to not be misinterpreted, I don't believe LTG, or frankly, any of these people should lose their channels for these comments, both on and off the platform, in the past and present. It's not about more people needing to be penalized, it's the opposite. When we're at the point where some are losing their careers due to something they had no control of, or just left in the dark as to why they're punished, of course others are going to start getting mad or speaking about the hypocrisy. Because at the same time, someone like Hassan or Amaranth gets to keep breaking these rules while laughing it off. Perhaps one of the most baffling examples of direct comparison, though, was given to us by the Smash community. And unfortunately, you probably know where this is going, because this is one topic that seems inevitable when it comes to Smash players. Let's start with the situation of Nairo. In Nairo's case, there were accusations that he had a sexual relationship with underage player Captain Zack. At the time of this video, it seemed to be settled in court, meaning the public has no full understanding of the outcome. There were claims that Zack actually forced him into the situation, lied, stories not adding up, and just really a mess. But the takeaway is, despite the undeterminable nature of the situation, Nairo was indefinitely banned from Twitch, leading to a big #UnbanNairo campaign. But during this time, Nairo was not the only one in the public eye for such a situation. The Smash community as a whole was. And another largely talked about story that spearheaded the movement was that of Sinpy. In this allegation, player Pup put forth that the 24-year-old woman had sexually charged involvement with him at the time he was 14. There was far more concrete evidence in this case, including videos to back up parts of the story. Yet, to this day, Sinpy is not only not banned from Twitch, but partnered as well. And it's not as if Nairo was a special case. Their rules are very clear, that if there's any confirmation in these situations, they will act on it. So why was the only person punished the one that had far more doubt and a court ruling? Is it because Simpy's a left-wing activist? Because she's a woman? regardless of whatever double standard you think it fits into, it makes one thing clear to me, that Twitch wasn't actually concerned about predators, but simply the performance of it all. It doesn't matter if Nairo had turned out to be innocent. At the time, he was the biggest name, and they aren't concerned with confirmation as they state. It's just about what screamed at them the loudest. It's something that rears its head all too often in these situations, not only in cases like Nairo, but ones where it's beyond a doubt that something didn't end up occurring, such as with streamer Hashin Shin. When allegations of sexual misconduct were put against him, it went as far as the FBI clearing the case, stating that he was innocent, but I guess they forgot to ask Twitch's opinion. Really, it shouldn't be surprising. As we go through this video, it will become very apparent that Twitch, much like with predators, does not care about any abuse or any community that they make platitudes about. It's all PR. And while you can say that for most companies, this is one of the most blatant displays I've seen in relation to how little it's talked about. Perhaps that's a bit too heavy though, so let's take a step back. Even if we look in non-controversial areas of the rules, nothing in relation to sex, politics, harassment, or what's considered hate speech, such as Twitch's rules on view botting and fake engagement. There are examples like partner channel Fextra Life, where they have their Twitch streams embedded into every website under the Fextra umbrella, such as the Dark Souls Wiki, making their stream always have thousands of viewers. Despite this clearly not being the case, if you just look at chat. This is artificial engagement by every metric, and as Twitch states themselves, these practices cheat the system, limiting growth opportunity for legitimate creators. But like every rule, its implementation is arbitrary and selective purely on preferential treatment. Now, circling us back around to unfair treatment, in the opposite direction, there is the Tae Hoo Hoo incident. While the streamer was going to pick up food at her front door, she accidentally left the entrance to her bedroom open, leaving her child to wander in. Tae received an indefinite ban as a result. It's quite insane how hesitant Twitch is to ever forgive genuine mistakes. The only ones who seemingly can recover need a legion of people to make a stir. But even then, many still go through months of undeserved punishment, and many more remain permanently banned. While those who go out of their way to break Twitch's rules to a far greater degree are always seemingly forgiven instantly, or never even punished to begin with.
It's almost like a challenge.
It's not as if I use examples of your average 5-viewer streamers either. All the creators I talked about are partnered, or were partnered, which I think speaks volumes to how unfair this is at lower levels. That's enough of these comparisons for now, as something I feel is very important to the issue at hand is how the mentality on display from Twitch is reiterated in the journalist media itself, playing down users' concerns, ignoring those issues of unfairness or hypocrisy, generally falling into what we talked about earlier, claiming any outcry is by misogynistic incels or whatever the go-to accusation is for the situation. The Twitch thought debacle is once again the perfect display of this. Beyond everything we already discussed, there are other negative impacts. It's far more than simply being one in the many examples from earlier of Twitch's failure and unfairness when upholding its own code. However, instead of me sharing the semantics with you, let's hear it from a group meeting of those misogynistic incels.
Go.
It's just becoming
Yeah,
expected of every female at this point. It feels that pressure, that social pressure is there so much right now.
And you want to know something that's really interesting is I have I'm not going to say the company's name here because I don't want to get anyone in trouble in any sort of way, but I have a friend who pretty much represents a company that finds deals for streamers. They find deals for streamers like, you know, fucking, I can't even think of, I don't want to name names, but say a salad company or a sandwich company or whatever. And they find deals and they give them to Twitch streamers to make them money. There have been companies, and my friend has told me this, that will say, just find us 5 of the top male streamers. And then they say, well, what about female streamers? They said it's too much of a gamble. Because on Twitch, if you go through and you click on female streamers,
that's interesting.
To reiterate what's being said here, by partnered female streamers who are obviously the ones directly experiencing the ecosystem this situation manufactures. The space Twitch has created has led to an expectation that they're supposed to be doing these provocative things, because not only is it allowed, it's encouraged. Girls just trying to stream normally on the platform are receiving more harassment, and companies themselves don't want to touch or even look into female streamers for partnerships because they're not held to the same standard as the men. It's much safer to go with the guy. So suffice to say, this is hurting people. People who, just as before, don't deserve this mistreatment. It's only the girls who actually uphold the rules who are suffering. And that's not the fault of those incels, but Twitch. These journalists and other defenders use those branding tools saying everyone who complains is a bigot because it silences people from sharing any real criticism. I've noticed with individuals online, they are far more often than not concerned with the idea of looking like a bigot more so than actual prejudice, so many bite their tongue. But it should be very apparent from today's discussion how many real issues there are in this area alone, and we are far from done with the whole picture. Now, one criticism you could have with that last point is that, oh, I agree, but the reason Kotaku, Vice, and all these other platforms focus on the Twitch thoughts as opposed to actual problems is because that gives easy clicks. And you're right, it does. But even if we ignore that they could take the opposite stance, shining light on injustice, there are way juicier stories here, many of which you probably haven't heard, most likely because these journalists sweep them under the rug. As an example, one thing that immediately concerned many with Twitch's hot tub meta was not just teenagers on the 13+ website being marketed to with sexual content, especially since many of the creators were sending out OnlyFans links where they openly post hardcore porn to their subscribers' emails, something that we should not forget, but also the ability for a younger person to end up participating within it as well. These websites would never cover such occurrences because it goes against their narrative, much like earlier, but this has happened a few times, some of which are still documented by smaller websites. Again, both these events are quite the controversy that I'm positive would generate clicks for any journo site that properly covered it. So saying the focus of current coverage is strictly over clicks is not a valid argument. Let's go bigger though. I'm sure you're aware one of the phrases banned from Twitch is just the mention of the idea that staff is exchanging sexual favors for promotion and protection. On the most basic level, you could assume this is just staff as always, being power hungry and controlling, wanting no one to even talk bad about their name. However, it's deeper than that. The mere mention is banned because they don't want the possibility of the very real cases of this happening being talked about by any of their streamers. The most notable case in recent times is that of streamer VO. In June of 2020, only a few months before said ban on discussion took place, she came forward that Hassan Bakari, a partnership manager, had been abusing his position frequently with not only her, but many users in the years of holding his position, pressuring these girls both online and in person to do sexual acts with him. Once again, please keep in mind this is just one instance, that despite years of abuse, no one at Twitch was willing to do anything about it, until it became too big of a deal to not act on for PR's sake. Something you'll find often with both these companies and journalist types, which none of this should come as a surprise, despite Hassan's nature being well documented and known by those in the industry, as well as its close observers. Twitch is just always more than willing to let their staff abuse their position of power. So let's take a look at another infamous example. Ferociously Steph. She was hired in 2020 as part of Twitch's Safety Council. I would like to point out, it shows a failure on Twitch's part from the get-go that they put someone in a position of power who believes themselves to be trans deer and eats grass on stream as well as doing fetish play on Twitch itself, which goes against guidelines, but I digress. Because the issue I want to focus on is that she would openly talk about being allowed to break the rules, or ban whoever she wants because Twitch is on her side no matter what.
You better watch out, because I'm pretty cool, and you can't get rid of me. Twitch is endorsing me, and there's nothing you can do about it, so I'm just gonna dance to your sad tears. I'm just gonna drink your tears. I think a lot of you gamers are actually white supremacists, Sorry. Just a fact. But I'm hanging in there, and I'm not going anywhere. I have power. They can't take it away from me. And honestly, you know, there are some people that should be afraid of me, and that they are, because I represent moderation and diversity. And
Of course, Twitch itself and its defenders were quick to point out that this council didn't have real power, as in they didn't have direct control over banning who they please. But that's a cop-out, isn't it? How is it not a position of power to be on a council of people who directly communicates with staff on the handling of Twitch's rules and jurisdiction? In tandem with the statements like the ones we just heard, it paints a very clear picture. And keeping with the theme we established, the coverage of this deer openly saying she's allowed to break the rules and abuse the system was that everyone was in the wrong for taking issue, that they were transphobic, that she was just trolling, because they really couldn't come up with any better excuse. Regardless if this was even the case, if she was just an extremely elaborate troll, it doesn't matter if she's crazy or if she's pretending to be crazy, her behavior should have been unacceptable. She was openly breaking rules while gloating about the fact, which is perhaps a perfect distillation of all of Twitch. If you're staff or one of their lucky preferred users, you can get away with just about anything. Actually, that's a good segue into another semi-recent, behind-the-scenes situation we got a glance at during the Twitch leaks of last year. Much like with the situation of staff abusing their position for favors being something the public could put together, even before the cases were fully documented, it's very clear that certain streamers themselves receive special treatment, some we've already talked about. However, it never became more concrete than when an old Do Not Ban list was leaked. As the name implies, the list detailed numerous streamers who were not allowed to be banned under any circumstances, making this injustice undeniable. Even in the best case scenario that Twitch tried to push as a cover for this story, they stated the list would only be used so certain people were reviewed instead of, and I quote, being banned for something silly. So in this scenario, they openly know the standard is them banning people for silly, unjustified reasons, but they just don't care unless you're in the club. Keep in mind, that's the cover, their best scenario they can put forward. Furthermore, much like the situation where they banned streamers for talking about the real issues of staff abusing their power over women, streamers such as Destiny who talked about the Do Not Ban list were hit with a ban for such discussion. I would not for a second dismiss the claims that these lists were and are still used, just as we perceived. Beyond that observation, it's an open secret. For example, Ethan Klein, who you probably know from H3H3.
I love that I can just say your
has been very open in mentioning how he would be allowed to get away with any content against TOS on Twitch. He would simply talk to his partner manager and avoid all consequence.
So Twitch suspended Joey's Twitch account.
Like immediately.
But they didn't do anything to us. And I later spoke on the phone to my contact there, and he said, and I quote, that we give special treatment to our partners, to our big partners. Well, we take care of you. Because I was joking with him, like, isn't that funny? Isn't that hilarious that Joey got banned and we didn't? Because we showed the same thing. In fact, we put him out there. We told him to do it. Mm-hmm. I mean, effectively, it was us, not him. But they banned him and didn't punish us. And we joked about it. And I joked about it with the Twitch staff. And he said, yeah, yes, you get special treatment.
Then there's the case of Alinity, a name I'm sure you all know from her publicly abusing animals on her stream. You recall at one point she received a 3-day ban, but did you know the reason she received it is because she begged Twitch staff to give it to her? She believed it would calm the hate she was receiving if Twitch at least pretended to take some accountability and uphold its own TOS. Another statement that speaks volumes. It's why all these streamers that break the rules constantly only receive small slaps on the wrist month to month, despite it always being the same charges. You'd think the point of non-permanent bans were to be a warning. If you keep doing said action, that will lead to a more severe punishment. Well, not with Twitch. These instances are just used to shut you up, because they know you will be quiet about it and go back to using Twitch, spending money on Twitch, just as normal, after they at least appear to do the bare minimum. And in contrast, of course, just as a refresher, many of those permanent bans we talked about that were given unfairly came with no warning, no prior ban. This system does not function as advertised, and is simply a guise for staff to do as they please.
To see, like, if they break 2 or 3 rules over 2 years, they're gonna get clapped on, right? But people who break 1 rule and do it again and again, the same rule again and again and again, 1 month after, 2 weeks after, 1 month after, and they just keep doing it over and over and oh, but I've learned. The whole point is to say that you've learned it, but no, nobody did learn it. And they smile and they laugh and they keep doing it.
Like they're actually getting preferential treatment. They are, it's obvious. Everybody fucking sees it. And it's ridiculous that it's happening.
It's almost like a challenge.
Now, there's one last facet of Twitch that I've neglected to fully talk about up to this point, because it's not just staff or journalists who are culpable in the state of the website, but the culture and streamers themselves. You'll find that partnered streamers particularly are very protective of their own, at the expense of the average user in a similar manner to the journalist. Much like them, the vast majority will defend the hypocrisy and blatant rule bending that takes place. For example, of all the issues we looked at throughout this video, in relation to the streamers specifically, I imagine most would agree one, if not the worst offender, was Misbehavin's 10-minute chatterbait stream, let's call it, especially when paired against other bans, like accidentally letting a child run in, showing an anime swimsuit, or just some random user's chat message. However, big streamers such as Hassan were immediately defending Twitch, letting her slide by, as always name-calling if you had the slightest dissenting opinion, or brought attention to the hypocrisy.
Why the fuck would I get mad that someone accidentally fucking threw up a sneak preview of some great fucking butt and pussy content? Like, why the fuck would you be upset at that?
It's not like it's just him either. Again, this is the standard. You can always find these partnered streamers doing this, and the dishonesty is disgusting. I genuinely would feel more positive about streamers if they admitted the system was broken, and they were just not calling out both the system and the people who should be punished because, hey, money. It's still shitty, but at least be honest instead of trying to gaslight your fans. Even the ones more willing to talk about these things, to the point of making shitting on bad practices and content their brand just come off as dishonest, because they still act super chummy or will defend certain individuals. Perhaps one of the most blatant displays of this defensive nature is how Twitch streamers respond to their peers, openly stealing content, both from creators on other platforms, as well as illegally by streaming television programs. Let's start at that first point though. It's become commonplace for streamers to play YouTube videos while doing other activities such as eating, or frankly, doing nothing at all. And to be clear, I really mean nothing. You won't see these streamers add insightful commentary, or anything of the sort that would be considered transformative. They are simply letting the video entertain the chat while they get to rake in the money, stuffing their face or staring off into the space. There will be content creators okay with this. Internet Historian is one such example, that allows his content to be viewed in this manner, and it's important to note he has given express permission to do this, because for every historian out there, there's a lot more JXGs, who after streamer Hassan Piker played the entirety of one of their videos without so much as uttering a single comment to the point of even leaving the room, as well as never bothering to show the creator, Jay's name, on stream during this. Obviously, Jay expressed distaste, both mocking the incident as well as making it known they were not okay with this. In response, Hassan, needless to say, threw a temper tantrum that Jay would take issue being given such valuable exposure, and even banned members of his chat that said Hassan should credit the video properly. A very telling response.
Even though I've given a lot of clout and also a lot of attention to this.
That's what most of these excuses put forward boil down to. The equivalent of saying the creator is being paid in exposure, or that the streamer simply can't be expected to constantly talk. So what are they to do? I shouldn't have to explain that being paid in exposure is a scam, but let's at least look at it through the YouTube lens. The algorithm here is fickle. You might get one video that blows up a year, every few years, or never. So imagine the one time you're graced by the roll of the dice. some millionaire who sits on his ass all day, streams that video to hundreds of thousands of people. You don't suddenly get those views, ad revenue, or anything that would come with that if those people had incentive to go to the video naturally. And in many cases, they won't even know you were the author. It's not like games or products where if they see a streamer enjoying it, they can think, oh, I'll buy that so I can experience it as well. They already experienced all of the content. We can, once again, look to Jay's video response to see this in action. They showed viewers what that exposure boils down to in terms of hard numbers for that situation. And it's basically nothing, even if it comes from someone with a large platform like Hassan. So in these cases, what happens instead is that streamer gets all of those things, and with a constant precedent set. People now know they can come to said channel for a hub of varied, uninterrupted, quality content. And as you might recall, this is exactly what happened on YouTube many years ago with the rise of React channels, such as Jinx. At the time, this was properly called out by the community. In fact, that's really the key difference between YouTube and Twitch. On YouTube, creators are always seemingly ready to call others on the platform out. And while there's definitely negatives to this, breeding some truly awful things into existence, such as the commentary community, and the many users who use misinformation or position to attack those they don't like, I would still say things overall here are preferable because creators are held accountable when abusing the platform or other users on said platform. A stark contrast to what we've seen with Twitch creators, where nearly any sleazy act is covered up and excused. Many of these justifications are just like the last one, outright manipulative. Another common claim is that Twitch streamers can't talk throughout every second of the stream, so of course they're silent through these 20 to 40 minute long videos. They always seem to play up that YouTubers just don't get it, since they are scripting content. So, as someone who does both of these things, let me tell you, this is bullshit. No one expects streamers to talk ad nauseum. Plenty who walk away for a bit will put up a waiting screen with music, old clips, videos produced just for this type of break in the stream, or videos that they have permission to use. And that's not to say you need to go these lengths. You can just walk away without anything, or watch other people's content, but there is an appropriate way of doing that. And the clearest way to define it is with fair use. The component specifically that should be focused on is that the content usage can't be marketed or seen as a replacement for the original. If a streamer is pausing, constantly giving their thoughts, critiquing, adding literally anything, beyond a laugh, nod, or chew every few minutes, then no one would have any issue. In fact, React creators that do follow this and give proper credit can make content that benefits those they're reacting to. There are streamers who do this who never get complained about, as well as entire channels dedicated to just that. Like, it's not that someone needs to go 100% every frame of pause, but an effort needs to be made. The current state of streamers is like that shitty substitute teacher of old, who would just roll in a CRT and put on some VHS tape to entertain the students so she can do nothing all day and go home with a nice paycheck. The only difference is in this case, is that VHS tape is someone else's stolen content and stolen revenue. It's also painfully ironic because you constantly see the same people abusing the DMCA system to shut down fair use content if it takes a dime from them or paints them in a not so great light.
Now, as many of you guys may know already, this situation is very funny for me in particular due to the fact that 3 years ago, Pokimane herself ended up issuing a false copyright strike against my channel because I showed her tweets in a YouTube video.
If that's the case, then fuck you, dude. Don't make me DMCA your bitch asses. I will destroy the Hasanabe Clips industrial complex. I will make what Russia is doing to Ukraine look like little kisses to the Hasanabe Clips industrial complex. Do you understand me? Motherfuckers are literally posting my YouTube videos from my fucking Twitch, stealing this shit.
With all that said though, that's not the only people these streamers are stealing from. The final meta we've experienced as the writing of this video was the TV meta, because at this point, streamers are just outright playing hours of television. And you'll have to excuse the lack of relevant footage for this section, as these streamers delete all of their VODs, most likely as a result of knowing what they're doing is breaking the rules. A common tactic actually, as the Twitch thoughts, for example, also delete all of their VODs, which is why most of the footage I've gotten in that section is from me loading the front page of Twitch, or in some cases, when I needed a specific past stream, the only place hosting them are porn sites. Some would take these actions as clear admittance to wrongdoings, maybe something to keep in mind. But no, the legality isn't the issue. I won't sit here and act like I'm morally outraged or that it's harming these billion-dollar companies, as it would those creators, because even as someone who prefers supporting the products I enjoy, I don't care if people pirate from huge corporations. However, it's also not the same sticking point here. It's no secret that Twitch's copyright situation is absolutely screwed when it comes to music, managing to be worse than YouTube in a lot of ways. We've seen live musical performances that were promoted by Twitch DMCAing themselves, or being required to be dubbed over in real time. This behavior that we're seeing now is exactly how we got here, and this continued abuse of the system will simply lead to stronger, more harsh policies as time moves forward, as instead of streamers playing safer at the highest level, they only get more daring. And a large factor in this is because Twitch themselves, as always, does not want to take accountability. When Pokimane streams Avatar for 10 hours, Twitch stays hands off, allowing her to do so until Viacom itself steps in to issue a takedown, leading to nothing more than a slap on the wrist and a short vacation for her before she can do it again, or whatever the current TOS breaking meta is on Twitch at the time. However, it's just as with every other issue we've discussed. Who ends up suffering for this? It's us, as those DMCA policies inevitably get tighter, just as we've seen with music. The average user is allowed less leeway, and you can bet when these companies come for you, your channel isn't going to miraculously recover without issue, as easily as it does for them. None of this is to even mention the entitlement that came with this. It's just insane. They're illegally streaming this content openly against TOS to football stadium numbers of people, raking in hundreds to thousands of dollars with absolutely no effort. Yet they whine and cry on social media when receiving the most minimal repercussions. But that's just how Twitch is, isn't it? It's been our reoccurring theme today. The rules are enforced completely arbitrarily by Twitch's staff. Even calling them vague guidelines would almost be giving them too much credit at this point. So it must genuinely be shocking when they are actually held to any type of standard. And as you can imagine, many are fed up with the state of things. We constantly see streamers leaving the platform of their own volition, even big ones. Then there's community responses anytime these events take place. Simply look at the 2-day ban Pokimane received. Many criticized her at the time, or heckled the situation. But what I found most interesting was something that spiraled from this. Fellow creator Gideon used the current tension to bring up the fact that Pokimane had dropped the N-word on stream in the past, and later had his chat spamming the other streamer with the phrase L+ ratio. Of course, Pokimane and every website in existence that covered the situation tried to simply spin it as misogyny, as well as leaving out the context, because as we discussed, the tactic is always a way to pivot away dissent, instead of addressing the core of why things happen. Nothing about this situation had to do with her being a woman, but one of the reasons even simple, admittedly childish stuff like this gets so many people behind it is because many are just sick of how much these individuals get away with and lash out. Meanwhile, Gideon was banned permanently in contrast. Some might say he stepped over a boundary. I mean, even he would say so, considering he immediately went to grovel at both Twitch and Pokimane's feet. But that's not the point. Gideon was clearly using the situation for his own personal clout gain. Yet it still paints an interesting picture from Twitch's angle. How many times has Pokimane stepped over this boundary? Or how many boundaries in general? How many cases have there been where Pokimane sent her own fans in the exact same manner to harass others? Furthermore, how many of these creators I've talked about continuously break the same rules month after month, abusing TOS, other users, or creators? This behavior is perfectly acceptable for so many, and it was only an issue because of who it was directed at. None of these creators that made sweeping statements about harassment, misogyny, anything, actually give a shit. In fact, many of them participate in it when it's people they don't like. It's all a performance. That's all it ever is. It's the same reason we keep coming back to how these types always deflect every little bit of rebellion or criticism from users and other creatives as some form of bigotry. While in reality, it's very clear a lot of the hate toward these individuals is not simply because of an arbitrary form of identity, but of the preferential treatment they get. Perhaps things would improve if the actual problems were looked at, but as things are, we're probably only going to see more incidents as time goes on, and the injustice present in the website continues to go unaddressed. All that said though, it brings into question, what even is the point of a video like this? Twitch has made it clear, it's never going to be concerned with fixing its management or shortcomings of its staff, much like another company that puts on a progressive image while covering abuse. Their strategy is clear, they're just going to announce some other program, or lore in that other company's case, that distracts their users, for the time being, or slap a 2-day ban on the latest controversy. Hell, they've more than learned their lesson. If they can't satiate the demographic they're aiming for, that demographic is too spineless to do anything. Even when Twitch's plans backfire, what's the worst they're going to do? Take a single day off of Twitch before using the service again? No, despite my feelings toward the platform, it's hard to argue the strategy doesn't work. But I'm also sure for many, Twitch's inability to fix itself doesn't matter. To some, just mocking the company and its creators for these situations that end up ensuing is an enjoyable experience to laugh at in its own right. And it's certainly a factor in why I take interest, but I hope from my presentation today, it's clear that there's more to my reasoning. I used to love Twitch. I used to have so much hope for this platform. It's not that I was around for the Justin TV days, but when I first discovered it, it was an era of finding all these content creators from different walks. Whether it was just someone being plain entertaining with their commentary, or doing some crazy speedrun or ROM hack of a game I hadn't thought about in years. Some of these people were edgy, well, at least by today's standards. So that's just to say they weren't squeaky clean or void of all opinion, but many of them could also still be considered wholesome. My point is, it was all different personalities, and at the time, YouTube was not so great. It was really starting to go downhill and lose that "you" part of the title. Twitch felt so inviting in comparison. I ended up streaming, and for a while I really did love it. It brought me more satisfaction than even my budding YouTube videos. But as that time went on, well, I think we've made it evident that all changed. Twitch is now full of content creators that are indistinguishable from each other, all as marketable and as fake as possible. It's all about subathons, esports, e-begging, creating the strongest parasocial relationships imaginable to take advantage of. It's also artificial. Nowadays, if a content creator mentions streaming on Twitch, I honestly lose all interest, because I just can't even fathom wanting to be on the website. It's become an amalgamation of everything I dislike about the current internet. Even YouTube these days is better by so many metrics. Don't get me wrong, a lot of the same stuff from back then still sucks now, but it's a land completely run by bots. And those issues we deal with seem to affect everyone equally, big or small, without nearly as much prejudice, and I prefer that. In fact, the reason we can talk so openly on this platform about its problems is just one example of how it manages to be better, because unlike Twitch, they don't have policies that state you will be banned if you talk shit about the company. However, I don't want to be batting so hard for YouTube either. I don't want it to be the sole proprietor of all video-based content. I want competition. I wanted both of these companies to succeed and keep the other in check. It's not as if YouTube couldn't turn around one day and do all of those awful things too, especially if they felt there was no competition. That's not to say that Twitch is on track to fail though. It's not as if users on average are leaving in droves. As we went over, staff most likely knows that the worst they'll ever have to deal with is an impotent temper tantrum. And as long as they put out literally the most minimal distractions, things will soon normalize. Even those streamers that get dicked over frequently resort to groveling. But in all fairness, it is their livelihood, and many streamers who have spoken against Twitch or the behind-the-scenes abuse have been punished for doing so. So maybe the lack of spine from so many is a bit more understandable. Honestly, at the end of the day, it just sucks. Twitch is no longer that symbol of potential I saw it as, for so many of the reasons we went over. While there's still nuggets of that potential from just the superior chat experience to the discoverability of channels, as well as a streamer here and there with their souls still intact that manages to not be banned by the website. But these things all get buried under its continued issues. By the time this video is out, I'm sure a shit ton more have arisen, No doubt a myriad of people have been unfairly treated, or some new bizarre drama from out-of-touch streamers who barely seem to remember how to act human has surfaced. Usually I try to end videos like this on a more optimistic note, hopeful for an outcome where whatever situation I talk about could still improve. But when it comes to Twitch, I struggle even imagining positive changes anymore. Pretty much everything good about the site is a holdover from a now ancient past, while it doesn't seem like anyone in charge of Twitch is interested in adding to it in a positive way. And really, Twitch doesn't have any reason to change that. Well, that's the end. This was not the most fun to make at times with some of the content I had to look through, as well as just me never planning for it to be this long. But I'm very glad I did it, and I'm happy with the end result. So that means all the psych damage I took throughout it was worth it, to some degree. And hey, if you feel the same, you can help by supporting the video by liking it, subscribing, checking out my other content here on this channel or my stream channel, as well as considering becoming a patron or member like those on screen right now. And for those of you already doing that, thank you. As always, it means more than you know.